Hello and welcome back to NPA Discovery, where history meets humanity, and the legends of music, film, and life are revealed in ways you've never seen before. If you're passionate about stories that blend fame with vulnerability, wisdom with contradiction, and music with emotion, then you've come to the right place. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with fellow Beatles fans, and subscribe for more truth-filled journeys into the lives of iconic figures. George Harrison, often overshadowed by the larger-than-life personas of John Lennon and Paul McCartney, was known as the quiet Beatle. But make no mistake, George Harrison was never silent. His guitar didn't just speak, it screamed with meaning. His life? A roller coaster of passion, rebellion, tragedy, and spiritual pursuit. But does the title of today's video go too far? Was George Harrison's response to John Lennon's death truly shocking, or was it, in its own raw honesty, deeply human? That's exactly what we're here to unpack. Let's dive deep into the life of the Beatle who turned pain into poetry and contradiction into legend. George Harrison was born in Liverpool, officially on February 25, 1943. But even this basic fact, like so much about him, came with a twist. In the 1980s, George circulated a fake hospital document stating he was born on February 24th, just to mess with the press. That small act of mischief encapsulates Harrison perfectly: deeply private, sometimes slyly rebellious, and never easy to pin down. Even in the womb, his mother Louise wanted her son to live a peaceful life. She listened to Radio India during her pregnancy, hoping the tranquil sounds would shape his spirit. And in many ways, they did. But peace was never the whole story. In 1956, everything changed. While riding his bike past a neighbor's house, George heard Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel blasting through a window. That moment didn't just spark interest, it lit a fire. He was hooked. His mother, with limited means, somehow scraped together enough money to buy George his first guitar, a decision that would change the landscape of popular music forever. Real-life story. At just 15, George auditioned for John Lennon's band, the Quarrymen. Lennon thought he was too young and too green. But Paul McCartney, recognizing raw talent, gave George another shot. The second audition. On a moving double-decker bus. George, with fearless precision, performed a solo that left Lennon stunned. And just like that, a trio became the beginning of the world's most famous band. As the Beatles reached unimaginable fame, George found himself searching for something deeper. In 1965, a single experience would change him forever: LSD. Though it started recreationally, it soon led George to crave something more spiritual. The answers, he believed, weren't in stadiums or screaming fans, but in sitars, sacred texts, and silent meditation. That same year, he met Ravi Shankar, the legendary Indian sitar player who became both a teacher and a spiritual guide. Shankar didn't just teach Harrison how to play an instrument, he opened the door to a completely different worldview. Hindu philosophy, vegetarianism, and transcendental meditation became George's North Star. Example: in 1966, George recorded Within You Without You, a track for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band that boldly replaced electric guitars and drums with Indian instrumentation and themes of selflessness and unity. At a time when most rock songs were about dancing or romance, George was making music about ego death. But peace came at a price. Fame and enlightenment don't always coexist, and his marriage to Pattie Boyd began to feel the strain. The two had fallen in love fast, and their bohemian lifestyle at Friar Park, a massive Gothic estate, seemed idyllic from the outside. But within its lavish halls, cracks were forming. George's spiritual ambitions were often at odds with his earthly temptations. He wanted to emulate the Hindu god Krishna, known for his multitude of consorts. This mindset led to infidelity, one of the most painful of which involved someone shockingly close. Real-life moment: George had an affair with Maureen Starkey, Ringo Starr's wife. When Pattie discovered the truth, she was devastated, and when Ringo found out, he was furious. Yet George, almost brazenly, admitted his feelings at a dinner party. Lennon compared it to sleeping with your brother's wife. The betrayal was deep and public. In 1974, Harrison asked for a divorce. The fairy tale was over. And karma, as it often does, seemed to catch up. Commentary: how can a man sing about detachment and unity while breaking the hearts of those closest to him? That paradox lies at the heart of George Harrison. He was a seeker, but also flawed. And that made him real. More real, perhaps, than the image the world projected onto him. After the storm of divorce and inner turmoil, Harrison found something rare: stability. He married Olivia Arias in 1978, just a month after their son Donnie was born. With them, he found the grounding he had long been seeking, but peace didn't mean obscurity. His solo career exploded with All Things Must Pass, a triple album packed with songs the Beatles had once sidelined. Critics called it a masterpiece. And fans saw in it the George Harrison they always suspected was their poetic, philosophical, and unfiltered. Then came December 1980, the world stopped when news broke that John Lennon had been murdered outside his New York apartment. The loss shook millions, but Harrison's reaction was unexpected. His wife Olivia later revealed that when she woke George with the news, he simply rolled over and said, "Oh, is that so?" before going back to sleep. Cold? Detached? Perhaps. But maybe, just maybe, it was how he coped. George believed in reincarnation and the soul's journey. To him, death wasn't an end. Later, he released All Those Years Ago, a tribute to Lennon that walked the fine line between love and unresolved pain. One lyric stood out: "You were the one who imagined it all." Commentary: some critics called the tribute half-hearted. Later, he released All Those Years Ago, a tribute to Lennon that walked the fine line between love and unresolved pain. One lyric stood out: "You were the one who imagined it all." Commentary: some critics called the tribute half-hearted. Others saw it as deeply raw and honest. But that's the thing with grief, it rarely follows a script. And for a man who had been both inspired and hurt by Lennon, the response was perhaps the truest reflection of their complicated bond. In 1999, tragedy struck again. A mentally disturbed intruder broke into Friar Park and stabbed George over 40 times. His wife Olivia fought back with a lampstand, saving his life in what became one of the most terrifying celebrity attacks in modern memory. Though he survived, the trauma lingered. And the cancer he had been battling quietly for years returned. As 2001 drew to a close, George Harrison, surrounded by his closest family, took his final breath, but Olivia said something extraordinary happened in that moment. According to her, George's passing wasn't dark. It was light. He lit up the room, she said. A glow. A presence. As if the man who had spent his life chasing transcendence had finally arrived. Climactic reflection: George Harrison was never just the quiet Beatle. He was the spiritual warrior, the wounded husband, the musical genius, the mystic, the misfit, and the man who showed us all that the path to peace is never perfect. His life was a symphony of contradictions. But maybe that's exactly what made him so profoundly human. If this story moved you, give this video a like, leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to NPA Discovery for more true stories behind the legends. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep listening.